I think it's the same thing that kept me going through the campaign, frankly, which is
When a mayor-elect of New York City is asked what keeps him awake at night, the answer is never simple. This is the most powerful city in America, the wealthiest, the loudest, and yet, behind the headlines, millions are quietly struggling to survive. Tonight, we analyze this interview, not for politics, but for what it reveals about fear, responsibility, and a city standing at a crossroads.
the affordability crisis. I think oftentimes we think about these issues solely through the context of when there's an election, but it's continued all the same these last few weeks. You know, my phone stopped working. I went to an AT&T store. I sat across from an employee at a table, and they said, "You've been here before." I said, "No, I haven't." They said, "Well, you look like a regular."
I recognize you.
I was like, yeah. It was like, "You walk by the store?" I was like, "Sometimes." And I told him I'm going to be the next mayor of the city, and he was apologizing that he didn't know me, and I said, "Not at all." And he told me about his life, and he said every day he wakes up in the morning, he thinks about work, he gets ready, he goes to work, he's at work, he comes home thinking about work, he goes back to sleep, and it's the same cycle. He doesn't have time to engage with the politics of the city around him because he's so concerned about being able to afford this city. And that, to me, continues to be the issue, because if you talk to New Yorkers about their rent, if you talk to New Yorkers about their childcare, their utilities, public transit, groceries, these are costs that are continuing to suffocate them. And for all of the conversation of I'll be the first this or the first that, the first that I'm thinking about is the first of the month for New Yorkers, and how it's still a time.
The first thing the mayor-elect talks about isn't crime. It isn't immigration. It isn't Washington. It's affordability. A moment inside an AT&T store becomes a metaphor for the entire city. A worker who wakes up thinking about work, goes to work thinking about work, comes home thinking about work, and goes to sleep doing the same. No time for politics. No time for civic life. Only survival. This is New York's hidden crisis, not dramatic enough for headlines, but constant enough to crush millions. Rent, childcare, utilities, groceries, transit. For many New Yorkers, the first of the month isn't a date, it's a source of anxiety.
When I sat with the president of the Oval Office, I spoke about the fact that this is what is pushing New Yorkers out of this city. It's their inability to be able to afford the basics of their life. And I actually told the president that while my campaign began technically on October 23rd of last year, the moment when more people started to hear about our vision for the city was when we interviewed voters who voted for the president, whether Fordham Road in the Bronx or Hillside Avenue in Queens. And when we asked them who they voted for and why, they spoke about voting for the president because of a focus on cost of living. And I told the president that focus continues. People are still struggling to afford.
In the Oval Office, the mayor-elect says he told the president something simple. People are being pushed out of the city not by crime, but by cost. He explains that even voters who supported the president did so for one reason, the cost of living. This moment matters because it reframes politics not as ideology, but economics. The message is clear. You can't talk about prosperity while 1 in 4 New Yorkers lives in poverty.
I mean, there's definitely an aspect of all of this that is surreal. You know, about 4 years ago, I was over there, and I was on a 15-day hunger strike with working-class taxi drivers whose lives were being ruined by the policies of this city. And we won that battle. We won $475 million in debt relief thanks to the leadership of the New York Taxi Workers Alliance. And to be meeting those same drivers over the course of this campaign and now telling them that, in fact, we're going to be on the inside of City Hall,
Must be a trip.
Standing outside City Hall, the mayor-elect reflects on something unusual. 4 years ago, he wasn't inside those walls, he was on a hunger strike. Taxi drivers, working-class families, crushed by policy decisions made far above them. Now he's about to walk inside the same building that once ignored them. This isn't just political symbolism, it's a test. Can someone who fought the system govern it?
Is the potential presence of ICE in the city. We've seen raids at 26 Federal Plaza. I've seen them myself. You've seen them. We've seen this young boy and his father.
Wan Shin.
Yep, from Queens, 6 years old, separated right now. Watching you in that Oval Office meeting with the president was almost unbelievable to see. And you talked about a little bit about how you talked about ICE and that there are all these issues that the city and the federal government cooperate on. Did he telegraph to you at all whether or not he's going to send Greg Bavino and the Border Patrol into New York City?
Look, I told the president that these kinds of raids that we're seeing here in New York City, they're cruel and inhumane, and they do nothing to serve the interests of public safety. And I'm speaking to you right now as a mayor-elect. I'm also still the assembly member for Astoria and Long Island City. And Juan Sheen, the 6-year-old boy that you were just referring to, he was a student at PS 166Q. And we still don't know where he is. We know his father is being held in a detention facility in upstate New York.
In Orange County.
Yeah, in Orange County, but we don't know where Juan Sheen is. And I'm thankful for the fact that they just spoke for the first time since they were separated. And yet that is not enough. We need to see the...
The tone of the interview changes here. This is no longer abstract. ICE raids, Federal Plaza, a 6-year-old child separated from his father. No charges, no clarity, no answers. For the mayor-elect, this isn't theory. He identifies himself as an immigrant. He remembers waiting outside the same building, unsure if family members would walk back out. He calls the raids cruel, inhumane, and ineffective. The fear, he argues, doesn't make the city safer, it fractures it.
I'm proud to inform people of their rights, and I can't think of a more American thing to do than to speak about the protections that we all have under the law.
Are you prepared? Gavin Newsom told me he was prepared to be arrested. Tom Homan threatened anybody that stands in the way could be arrested. You've been arrested before, standing up for people's rights. J.B. Pritzker told me that Donald Trump should come and get me. You prepared to be arrested by the federal government if you stand up to their immigration enforcement?
I'm prepared for any consequence that comes for standing up for New Yorkers, because that's my job. That's what I ran to do. And I think that it's time that New Yorkers look at city.
Then comes the most serious moment. Asked whether he's prepared to be arrested for standing up to federal immigration enforcement, the answer is direct. Yes. He says leadership sometimes comes with consequences, and that no one, not IC agents, not presidents, is above the law. It's a bold statement, and a dangerous one, because it places New York City on a potential collision course with the federal government.
That we do not need them here. And what we have here is the NYPD that can provide that public.
This interview isn't about left or right. It's about pressure, a city under economic strain, immigrant families living in fear, and a mayor-elect stepping into office at one of the most volatile moments in modern New York history. The question isn't whether he believes what he says. The question is whether New York City is ready for the consequences of acting on it.